Anyway, back to January 2010. The wars in Afghanistan and Iraq have been going on a long time, almost Vietnam long. Enter U.S. Army intelligence analyst Chelsea Manning, who was serving in Iraq. Manning had grown disillusioned with the wars and concerned that the public didn't realize what was going on. When she raised concerns with her superiors, they didn't seem to care. So Manning downloaded approximately 400,000 documents related to the Iraq War. She reached out to reporters from the Washington Post and the New York Times, but they didn't seem interested. So in February 2010, she uploaded the documents to WikiLeaks. A few months later, Manning was arrested by the military. And a few months after that, WikiLeaks released what they called the Iraq War Logs, which were redacted versions of Manning's disclosures. So that's the basic chronology. We've left out a bunch of stuff about other disclosures like the Afghan War Diary and the diplomatic cables. They're important too, but this video is about the Iraq War Logs. So let's talk about the three biggest revelations in the logs. Number 1, civilian casualties. One of the most quantifiable impacts of the Iraq War Logs was the revelation of at least 15,000 civilian deaths that had not been disclosed to the public. The Iraq Body Count Project, an acclaimed British NGO, has been committed to recording civilian deaths resulting from the war. One of the hardest things to chronicle in a war is to gather an unbiased civilian death toll, and IBC credits the Iraq War Logs with having a major impact in aiding reporters. The IBC's co-founder testified in court that the Iraq War Logs were the single largest contribution to public knowledge about civilian casualties in Iraq. Number 2, war crimes and dishonoring the dead. The Iraq War Logs went beyond the numbers of civilians who had lost their lives and actually exposed how many of the dead were dishonored by being falsely labeled insurgents or hostiles. The logs helped major news outlets like the New York Times report that private military contractors had fired indiscriminately on civilians on multiple occasions, even shooting up a civilian vehicle with a family inside. The files showed that almost 700 civilians had been killed at military checkpoints for coming too close to troops, including several incidents of men rushing their pregnant wives to hospitals. One of the most shocking incidents was a 2007 airstrike by the U.S. Army in Baghdad that killed at least a dozen people, including 2 journalists from Reuters. 2 children were also wounded. Manning leaked footage of this incident, which was actually released by WikiLeaks a few months before the rest of the files, under the title Collateral Murder. The footage depicted U.S. troops in an Apache helicopter firing on a group of men talking in the street, and later firing on those who had rendered medical assistance to the wounded. The troops are heard making insulting remarks and laughing at the casualties. In the aftermath of the attack, the military refused to provide Reuters with footage of the incident and listed the victims as enemy killed in action. Number 3, human rights abuses. We also learned about U.S. forces turning prisoners over to local police, even though they knew the prisoners were being subjected to abuse, torture, rape, and murder. Relying on materials from the Iraq War Logs, The Guardian reported that the U.S. ignored these complaints and had, quote, a formal policy of ignoring such allegations. There were even reports that the U.S. military cleared an Apache helicopter to fire on alleged insurgents who were attempting to surrender, a clear violation of the laws of war.